Apparently, this app can get you money in minutes.
I did it, y'all. I downloaded Dave, and now I have
respectively, and now it's Hopkins heading from Tennessee over to KC. For a lot more on this news, we bring in our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. And JJ, how did this move come about?
So the Chiefs have been looking, Zach, for a wide receiver for some time, right? They knew that they could get by with Juju Smith-Schuster, with Travis Kelce, but that attrition was likely going to happen. And of course, Juju suffering that hamstring injury, not thought to be a long-term injury, but again, that really kind of helped speed up the process as we are now within 2 weeks from the November 5th trade deadline. They're looking around the NFL, and earlier this week, I was under the impression it could be Deontay Johnson from Carolina that would ultimately go to Kansas City. But now you have DeAndre Hopkins, a veteran, someone who Kansas City was very interested in about 2 seasons ago, and then he wound up signing for big money with the Tennessee Titans, or at least money that Kansas City was not willing to offer the 3-time All-Pro wide receiver. In Tennessee, obviously some frustration with the quarterback play. DeAndre Hopkins surely has lost a step from his Houston and early Arizona days. There's no doubt about that, but he still has some juice to give. And so Kansas City, with some familiarity, right? He spoke with Andy Reid back then, spoke with Patrick Mahomes back then when there was some sort of recruitment going on. Now he winds up with Kansas City on this conditional 5th-round pick that can be a 4th. I'm told that some of those details still being worked out on what exactly would trigger the 4th-round pick over the 5th, but safe to say that it would be something related to playtime percentage, performance, probably the Chiefs in an AFC championship game and or Super Bowl that would take that from a 5th to a 4th, as well as the money, how much the Chiefs are willing to pay versus how much Tennessee is willing to pay of DeAndre Hopkins' remaining salary.
Yeah, Hopkins with just 15 catches this year with Tennessee, so certainly no eye-popping stats. We heard Patrick Mahomes say last week after the trades for Devontae Adams and Amari Cooper around the league, he said he still had extreme confidence in his wide receivers. But do you feel that this is something that the Chiefs knew they needed to make and get done despite still being undefeated, but the numbers from Patrick Mahomes not being amazing this year?
Yeah, look, I mean, you can look at the numbers, you can watch the Chiefs play, and you can tell that Patrick Mahomes is going to say the right things. There's no doubt about it. But in terms of trust of his wide receivers, where is that, right? It should be showing up on the film. It should be showing up in the stat sheet, and it is not. And so you can draw your own conclusions there. When you are missing Marquise Brown, when you are missing Rashee Rice, Sky Moore has not been the pick that the Chiefs thought that he could be, and very well could be, ultimately shipped out of Kansas City. You need to find those wide receivers. This season for the Chiefs, if they're going to be playing into January, February, I mean, it's not even halfway done yet. And so you're going to need some help. Attrition is going to happen. You cannot believe that Juju Smith-Schuster and that knee or that hamstring will hold up all season long, as well as Travis Kelce and his age. That would be a foolish thing to do. So they were always looking for help. And when you look out on the wide receiver trade market, no, it was not going to be Devontae Adams. No, it was not going to be Amari Cooper. Again, Deontay Johnson may be on that 1-year rental. Maybe someone like a Zay Jones, perhaps, or a DeAndre Hopkins. Those were the top names in the wide receiver market that were still out there, again, within the 2-week time frame before we get to the trade deadline. The Chiefs were always going to make a move, and so now this is when they do make that move. We see some other names there. Christian Kirk, perhaps. The Jaguars just won. You know, if they had lost on Sunday against the Patriots, I certainly would kind of throw him up closer to the top of the list. Mike Williams, you know, a talented guy that I think ultimately is probably going to get shipped off. We have Garrett Wilson there. I don't think the Jets were ever considering trading him. Adam Thielen, you have the same concerns for him that you do currently on your roster if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, veteran who has been battling injuries, and then Elijah Moore obviously could be sent somewhere at some point. The New England Patriots still have some wide receivers that they could part with as well. But again, some of the names at the top of the list were a Mike Williams, a Deontay Johnson, and of course now we're seeing him moved, DeAndre Hopkins.
So JJ, we see this list of the potential trade targets, but if I had to press you and say, all right, what team do we think will make a trade to bring in a receiver? Are there any out there that you'd be like, okay, you might see X or X make a move?
Yeah, I wouldn't put a player to a team, but I can say what teams are still out there looking for wide receiver help. Certainly, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, who absolutely believe, especially with Russell Wilson getting better over the course of that Sunday night game, that this is an offense that can actually hum. They do want to give a compliment to George Pickens over there. So the Pittsburgh Steelers would certainly be at the top of the list. The Los Angeles Chargers have been sniffing around the wide receiver market for some time. You can continue on with the Washington Commanders, who have been very quietly doing their research on both wide receivers and cornerbacks. Those would be three of the teams that I would put up there. You also have to wonder about the San Francisco 49ers. You have Deebo Samuel, who was recently hospitalized with pneumonia, just lost Brandon Ayuk to an ACL tear for the rest of the season. And so could they make a move for a guy? Maybe Atlanta wanting to get a little more depth as they feel that they are in contention for the NFC South division title. Some of those teams could all make moves for wide receivers here. Again, now that we're in this part of the week, it would make a little bit more sense for everyone to stand pat, and that we'll see more of those moves in the early part of next week. But certainly the Chiefs not wanting to waste any time, especially with Juju Smith-Schuster's hamstring, and that's why they went out and got DeAndre Hopkins today.
Yeah, Tuesday, November 5th will be here before we know it with that trade deadline, so we'll see what goes down as we inch closer and closer